Eileen,
Yes.
at what moment did you decide that you just had to become a musician?
Well, I think it was when I was about 15. I was playing in a youth orchestra, the Bergen Youth Orchestra, and I went that summer to a music camp, and yeah, I just started meeting people who wanted to be musicians and getting a lot of positive feedback, and yeah, it just felt like the most natural thing in the world to want to do. Yeah.
And was there anything about the music you were playing at the time? Do you remember?
Well, yeah, I was in a youth orchestra, and
Yeah.
just everything we did was so exciting. The Tchaikovsky Fifth Symphony and Shostakovich Fifth Symphony, and yeah, it was just the Rachmaninoff Second Piano Concerto. It was just, everything was wonderful. Yeah.
And do you have a most memorable musical experience?
Well, there have been a lot of really exciting concerts right along the way. I mean, I can't say, but we did, in 2003, we did play the Brahms German Requiem in Haarlem in a cathedral there. And that does stand out as being an especially exciting kind of concert. Yeah.
But is there anything, for some people, like, the first music they play in a youth orchestra, like,
Yeah.
especially for me, is something you always remember.
Oh,
That's that first
definitely.
piece you play in an orchestra. So I'm wondering,
Definitely.
because you're a string player, you play
Yeah.
violin?
Violin. I'm in the second violin group here, yeah.
And so it's always interesting to see, maybe for a violinist, if there's something different about playing your first piece of music with an orchestra, and if that kind of feeling sticks with you the rest of your life.
Oh, yeah, that's definitely an interesting point. Yeah. Yes. We had the Mozart Requiem we did in youth orchestra, and that feeling will always be with me. That feeling of, concentration and playing together in ensemble. And yeah, there's something gets awakened at that age, and it's still there.
And what motivates you to go back on stage every week?
Yeah, I think it's the team spirit, the feeling of being a part of a team. And I've played with these people, some of them for 20 years now, so I know more or less what to expect. And the feeling that there are moments when we do something together as a team that's just so much better than any of us could do individually.
Right.
And that's what I really love.
So the audience does not play a big role in maybe the musical fulfillment you get on stage.
Well, that's an interesting question, because I do notice more and more that the applause is a great kick. I love it. Especially, you hear here in the Music Theatre in Amsterdam, we get cheered now because of the political situation. I just love it. So that also definitely adds to the whole experience. Yeah.
And what do you think music organizations can do better to grow and cultivate their audience?
Well, it's a little different here than in the States. What I would love to see, especially here, is that personal contact with the audience. We have a good website, and the digital side of things is getting better all the time. But I would love it if every place we played there was a table with a few CDs and a few brochures, and somebody who could shake hands with the audience and explain. A musician or somebody from the staff, or that would be fine. But just somebody to make a personal contact. I think I think we're kind of shy about that, and I'd like to see that develop a little more.
Musicians are definitely shy about that.
Definitely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sort of along the same lines, what would you like to change about the business of music?
Well, what I'd love it to change is if there was more of a feeling of solidarity between orchestras here in the Netherlands, and also between orchestras in the world, that there's a feeling like we're all doing this together. And if something happens that hurts one orchestra, it hurts all orchestras. And if there's something happens that is good for one orchestra, it's good for all orchestras. It's not like this feeling of competition that we're all going after the same pot of money, but that we're really working together.
Yeah, you'd like to see more solidarity.
More solidarity. Maybe a lobby group, of orchestra musicians in the Netherlands going to The Hague and going to the government and saying, look, we really need to stand together.
Now, you're obviously not Dutch.
No.
No. You're originally from...
New Jersey.
New Jersey.
Yeah.
And you came here as a student, or you came here when you won the job in the orchestra?
I came here, I took a year's leave of absence. I was working in Vancouver in the opera orchestra and in a chamber orchestra, and I took a year's leave of absence to just spend a year in Europe taking lessons and looking around. And then I got a job in Amsterdam here in this orchestra.
Okay.
And it was kind of unexpected, but I thought, oh, well, I'll just try that for a year. And now
just for a year?
Yeah. and 20 years later.
That's everyone's story. I was just here. I was here for one summer. I was here for a few weeks.
Yeah.
Musicians and non-musicians, I hear that all the time here in the Netherlands.
Yeah, it's an easy place to stay once you're here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a very lovely place to live.
Yeah. So if you could have one night to play your dream concert with your dream orchestra, dream conductor, dream solo, anything, what would that be for you?
Oh, that's such a difficult question. Well, I'm married to a composer, you know, Theo Verbaai. I've never played a piece of Theo's.
Okay.
So playing a concert with a piece of his music, and I would just love that. I love the clarinet concerto especially, or the Fractal Symphony. To play that, a piece of his with, I've always wanted to work with Esa-Pekka Salonen. I've never worked with him. And the Dream Orchestra, yeah.
Any orchestra.
Any orchestra. Well, I love the Philharmonia in England, in London. That would be great, yeah.
Now, do you see anything about the younger generation today that's maybe better or worse than older generations?
Well, I love the energy of the younger generation, and I love the flexibility, you know, like yourself. Almost everybody works a few different projects. My generation, we're much more getting a full-time job in an orchestra and staying put. And the younger generation is much more likely to have a few part-time jobs, and maybe they travel more, but they're much more flexible. I think that's a positive development.
And what major differences do you notice about music and culture back home in New Jersey and here in Amsterdam?
Well, I haven't lived in New Jersey for 20 years, so that's a lot's changed since I left, you know. But I think ideally in Amsterdam, the music and the culture is for everybody. And you don't have to be a dentist or a surgeon to go to a concert, to go to the opera. Here it really is much more for the man on the street, and it's not such elite activity to go to a concert or to a museum.
Right.
Yeah, that is changing here, unfortunately, but that's one of the nice things about living here.
And for you, is there a difference between when you're playing in the pit for the ballet or an opera, as opposed to playing, you know, on the actual stage, you know, or concert music?
That's an interesting question. I do feel playing on stage, I do get stage fright. I mean, I get much more nervous before I have to perform on stage. I feel much more relaxed in the pit, and I hope the quality is as high both places. But there's definitely a sense of nervousness about being on stage.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks.
You're welcome.